Greetings, everyone. I just want to share some few things with you in terms of how do you have to focus at work even when things are falling apart. Now, before I get to that, I want to say, there are people that were or are very intelligent at school, and they used to study to an extent that they get distinctions, or they pass with exemptions, or they pass with merits. But let me be honest, in my years of study I've been very good, but I can tell you now, if I have to study again right now what this current generation is studying, the likelihood is that I might fail. Not because of I don't understand, but purely because my aging has turned to go over certain understandings of methods, systems. But believe you me, with this vast experience that I have, it will actually overshadow everything, because you can't buy experience. Some people will not be able to compete with the knowledge that I have and the experience over the period. Now, as I say, how do you focus at work even when things are falling apart? I want to tell you this. The work social injustice have got a huge impact on your life, and it actually makes you feel vulnerable and marginalized. And this kind of heartbreak is actually deadly, and you ask yourself, how do you actually empower yourself to deal or cope with such? And I can safely say, as a person, it is important for me to knowledge you that you have to be very patient with the healing process that you'd be trying to go through, and sometimes you need to understand it is not wrong as a person for you to hate. It is actually radical for you to act, but you also need time to heal yourself, And I mean, when we talk of work, it's important for you to actually connect with both the outside and inside community in terms of work and outside. Why? Because this can actually be a safe haven, and it will actually give you autonomy to grieve together, unlike when you are alone, because you had and go through certain challenges within the thought process. Now, at times you must also understand that you should be strategic in terms of how you disclose your challenges at work, because if you are actually impacted by the injustice going on, you need to calculate carefully the risks and benefits that you are likely to be re-injured again, and listen here, one should not actually treat work like a therapy. It is also very important for you to separate your personal and professional world, because sometimes many people, they actually mix the two together. Now, what's important as you are going through the healing process at work, through challenges, through work itself, it is important to look at yourself once a day, or every day rather. Monitor your own emotions. There is a likelihood that you will actually, during your healing process, you might not necessarily be linear, but you might see an overall trajectory, bending towards progress, or your progress. And that's important. And as much as while we outgrow the academic excellence and we grow more towards experience, one cannot actually overlook the unknown, uncertain world that we are faced with, in the future. Because now you have worked, now you have gained this experience, you have expressed yourself, you have showcased your quality. But the reality is that you are still having an uncertain world, which is retirement, an unknown world, an unknown future, let alone avoiding your psychological therapy, to trim. It is important that when you are aging like us, when you are focusing on the retirement plan, retirement age, retirement uncertainty, never ever ignore your path to psychological rehabilitation, even well way before retirement, because it might be deadly for you to move from this space of work and jump directly to retirement. And I always say that in everything that you have done in your life, you need to make sure that you do everything with excellency. It reminds me of Mohammed bin Rashid of Dubai. He said, I don't work with number 4, 3, 2, I strictly work with number 1. And I believe that's a mind of a champion. You need to live your life like a hero. If you go around and see all the statues around, they can only make a statue if the person is a hero. But with the same breath, I want to say you need to understand that every statue of a hero that you see, the legs are made of clay. What does that mean? It means in every hero, there were errors that occurred, and they learned from them and they took them and ran with them as a lesson. And they kept on pushing harder and harder and harder, not losing heart, And I want you to know one thing in closure. In the heart of every heartbreak that you go through, remember that you are not powerless. And you can still be a hero. You can still be known for the rest of your life. But yet that does not necessarily mean you are perfect. You have been perfected within your imperfection so that you can be a hero and have a statue. And that's the mind of a champion. Hence I said, in closure, if they can tell me to study now, what they are studying now, I might actually fail. But my experience it's what actually set me apart and is what would actually set you apart. Because you can't buy experience, you can only gain experience. Thank you guys.